across the room. While Ernestine sang the first few words to a second hymn, "Come, thou long-expected Jesus," Andrew added under his breath, "And could you possibly come before September, Lord?" But then he thought about his upcoming marriage to Julia Hollis and amended his prayer. "With all due respect, Lord, could you please wait until after December?" The 4 high-backed willow benches Julia had commissioned the Keegans, the Irish basket weavers, to make for the Larkspur Inn's garden, looked quite rustic among the flower beds and shrubbery. She was pleased with the effect. A 200-year-old building of weathered red sandstone would look a little silly looming behind lawn furniture made of the dainty-looking wrought-iron lace that was so popular in London. Or at least it was popular 16 months ago, when her late husband's gambling debts caused Julia to lose her home and almost everything else she had in the world, save the Larkspur, an old abandoned coaching inn that the London bankers had deemed too worthless to claim. With a courage born out of desperation, and a loan from her former butler, Julia had moved to Gresham with her 3 children and loyal chambermaid Fiona O'Shea. By God's grace and plenty of hard work, they had transformed the Larkspur into a lodging house, successful beyond even their most optimistic dreams. It was upon one of these willow benches that Julia and Andrew met every weekday morning before Andrew paid calls to his parishioners. Over cups of tea, the two shared news from the Shrewsbury Chronicle, tidbits of the goings-on in their separate households, and plans for the life they would begin together in December. For propriety's sake, the tea-tray occupied the space between them upon the bench, an arrangement the vicar understood and conceded was necessary, but disliked immensely. "But you know what happened the last time you tried to speak to the Sanderses," Julia said on Monday morning as she handed her fiancé the cup of tea she had just poured. She was a little miffed that Andrew had charmed her into a jovial mood by relating the events of Saturday's diocese meeting in Prescott, before mentioning in passing that he would be making a certain call today. "Yes, but this time there will be 4 of us." He took an appreciative sip from his cup. "Please compliment Mrs. Herrick on her most excellent tea, as usual." "Please don't change the subject, Andrew. You'll only be providing him with more targets. And who's to say the next cracked forehead won't be yours?" This warning had the opposite effect from the one Julia had intended, for the corners of his hazel eyes crinkled. "So you're worried about me, are you, Julia Hollis?" Julia refused to return his smile. "I'm in no mood to be teased." During the 3 weeks since she had accepted his proposal of marriage, she found that he was growing more and more dear to her, and the thought of Mr. Sanders crowning him with a rock, as he had poor Mr. Clay, frightened her immensely. He reached across the tray, picked up her hand and brought it to his bearded cheek. "It's rather nice, you know, having you fuss over me." "Do you plan to indulge in rash behaviour all during our marriage so you can be fussed over?" "Now there's a thought." She could no longer resist the coaxing in his warm eyes, and squeezed the hand that held hers. "Just be careful, Andrew." "Of course," he promised, giving the back of her hand a quick kiss before releasing it. "I'll turn and start sprinting if Sanders so much as looks at a rock, and I'll warn the others to do the same." "Why do they want you along anyway? The man has already proven he has no respect for the clergy." "I suppose they're hoping Mr. Sanders will feel contrite enough about his last show of temper toward Mr. Clay and me to grant us audience. I couldn't refuse them." The they and them of whom Andrew and Julia spoke consisted of Messrs. Sykes, Sway, and Casper, Gresham's newly elected school board. Because of Parliament's passage of the Elementary Education Act this year, local school boards were now responsible for seeing that English and Welsh schools met certain universal standards of education. Pressure was also brought upon these boards to increase school enrolment. There was no easy way to accomplish this latter goal, however, because without a compulsory education law, the choice still lay in the hands of the parents. But the 3 men of Gresham's school board